ghost cities, internet addiction camps, and fake billionaires in prison. That and more crazy things happening in communist China. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. You know, I spent a lot of time covering the corruption, hypocrisy, and atrocities of the Chinese Communist Party, but I don't think I spend enough time talking about just how deeply weird things have gotten under the CCP. So today, I'm going to show you some truly crazy things happening in communist China, starting with number 7. Here's a fun fact. China is roughly the same size as the US, geographically speaking, but it is more than 4 times the population. In fact, it has the largest population of any country on Earth. That's partly because Chairman Mao encouraged people to have babies. Lots of babies. He wanted more factory workers, more soldiers, and more people just in case a lot of them died. As Mao said in a 1957 speech, "I'm not afraid of nuclear war. There are 2.7 billion people in the world. It doesn't matter if some are killed. China has a population of 600 million. Even if half of them are killed, there are still 300 million people left." Joke's on Mao, though, because that nuclear war never happened. Sure, like 70 million Chinese people died in the 1950s, but that's only because they starved to death. But thanks to Mao's "everyone go have babies" policy, by the late 1970s, China's population was getting huge. So the CCP decided to regulate how many kids people could have. They started the one-child policy. It ran from 1980 to 2016. Then they allowed parents to have a second child. And as of last year, they're now allowing couples to have 3 children as a treat. But it's still government control. And telling people whether or not they should have kids should not be the government's job. It should be the job of your friends and family, telling you passive-aggressively. If your pregnancy announcement on Facebook gets less than 100 likes, then no one thinks you're going to be a good parent. Anyway, now China has 1.4 billion people, and as you can imagine, with such a large population, things can get pretty cramped in urban areas. The CCP tried responding to this by investing billions in the construction of modern cities, full of skyscraper apartment buildings. But it's estimated that more than 50 of these are ghost cities. Ghost cities can happen for lots of reasons, like maybe the government never completed construction. Or maybe they did, but there are no jobs, so no one wants to move there. So in the most populous country on the planet, they have dozens of mostly empty cities. And 65 million homes in the country are uninhabited. They basically spend billions of dollars to make 50 Detroits. Whoops. Number 6. As mentioned, China is roughly the same size as the US. But while the continental US has 4 time zones, China only has 1 time zone. In 1949, Mao Zedong declared that all of China would observe Beijing time in the spirit of national unity. As you can imagine, cities on the opposite side of the country, 3,000 miles apart, being on the same clock as Beijing can cause a lot of problems. In Tibet, for example, the sun doesn't rise until after 10 a.m. And some people try to go to bed when the sun is still in the sky. But hey, what's a little catastrophic sleep deprivation in the name of national unity? And really, it's not the worst thing they're doing to Tibetans. But all across the western part of China, this causes problems with farmers, students, and everyday logistics. Plus, this also had other unintended consequences. Namely, letting flat earthers think they're right. You see, China gets it. The reason it's dark on one side of the country is because the sun revolves around us. If you think that's crazy, wait until you see what we cover after the break. Welcome back. Number 5. In 2008, China became the first country to classify internet addiction as a mental disorder. They often refer to the internet as electronic opium or electronic heroin. Oh, so when they limit people's access to the internet and what they can and can't see, they're not suppressing information, they're just helping fight addiction. Wait, I'm on the internet, and I try to get people to watch my content. Does that make me an electronic drug dealer? The first taste is free. If you want the hard stuff, you gotta contribute on Patreon. The CCP says 24 million people suffer from internet addiction disorder, or IAD. And many of them are teenagers addicted to playing online video games. Look, addiction of any type can ruin someone's life. So if it is indeed a mental disorder, then how do they treat it? Therapy? Medicine? Nope. They send them to brutal camps and try to beat the addiction out of them. And when I say beat the addiction out of them, I mean literally beat the addiction out of them. Teenagers are put through a military-style boot camp and are often physically abused. Kids at these camps have been locked up in solitary isolation for up to 10 days, and there's been at least one fatality. There are over 300 of these IAD camps across China. And I'll admit, I'm annoyed when I'm on a date and she can't get off her phone. But I never thought she should be put in a camp over it. It's crazy on so many levels. One of which being, I never knew that millions of Uyghurs were so addicted to the internet. Number 4. China is officially considered an atheist country. In fact, the CCP promoted a book, The Principles of Scientific Atheism, that claims to prove scientifically that God doesn't exist and religion is harmful. So they use science to try and disprove religion. I'm not sure how accurate that could be, though, mostly since China's zero COVID policy clearly showed they aren't great at following science. Also, using science to disprove religion or vice versa doesn't work since the two don't use the same framework. That's like trying to prove you're the best blackjack player by using a pogo stick. You didn't prove anything. You just made people angry. The Communist Party worries that people believing in God could undermine the party's authority. Now, most religions at their core teach that you should be a good person and try to help others. And if that undermines what you're trying to get people to do, you might be the baddies. But for those who insist on believing, there are 5 officially recognized religions in China: Buddhism, Taoism, Islam, Catholicism, and Protestantism. And you're allowed to practice those as long as you belong to the official state-run version, like the Chinese Patriotic Catholic Association, where the head of the church is not God or the Pope. No, he's a Chinese official appointed by the atheist Communist Party. And practicing any other religion, or even an independent sect of one of those 5 religions, is enough to get you arrested, tortured, or killed. While separation of church and state may be a good thing, it's pretty scary when the state outlaws religion by force. But I don't know, I kind of view communism as a religious experience, mainly because you'll be praying every day that it ends. More after this final break. Welcome back. Number 3. While China isn't a particularly religious country, there is one thing many people there worship: money. China creates billionaires at a rate much faster than the US. In fact, China is home to the most billionaires in the world. Even after 160 of them lost so much wealth, they were demoted to multi-millionaire status. I know, only multi-millionaires. Yuck. They won't be able to show their face at the Flying Yacht Club anymore. The reason these billionaires lost so much wealth is because the CCP cracked down on them. Turns out the Communist Party isn't a fan of wealth that they're not in control of. So how do they crack down on billionaires in China? With legislation and restrictions? Yes, but also executions. Yeah, billionaires in China don't have a long life expectancy. China has executed over a dozen of them. Plus, many have been murdered or committed suicide. You know, committed suicide, like Jeffrey Epstein. No wonder so many American billionaires are trying to get on China's good side. They want to make sure they don't end up getting disappeared. So as you can imagine, wealthy people in China go to extraordinary lengths to protect themselves. For example, hiring body doubles. In some cases, to go to court and serve their prison sentences for them. So at least if Jeff Bezos ever traveled to China and gets put on trial, he could have his jail time served by Mr. Clean. Speaking of being held in captivity, number 2. Pandas. There are pandas in zoos all over the world, but all of them, no matter where they were born, are still owned by China. And you thought Disney's copyright lawyers were brutal. Somehow China gained the rights to an entire species. Zoos pay upwards of $1 million a year for a pair, for up to 10 years with an option for renewal. This money China collects goes towards panda conservation efforts. No, not for these guys. For these guys. There are only 2 pandas in the world that aren't owned by China, Xin and Xuan at the zoo in Mexico City. This is because they're descended from pandas that were given to Mexico before 1980. That's when China changed its policies on how it loans out pandas and claims ownership of their offspring. Today, even pandas that were born in captivity in other countries are considered property of China and can be taken away if you get on China's bad side. So maybe President Biden isn't afraid of upsetting China because of the economic backlash. Maybe he's just a big fan of pandas. But there's one bear that China doesn't want to claim ownership of, and that's number 1, Winnie the Pooh. It all started in 2013 when Xi Jinping visited the US and was photographed walking with then President Barack Obama. And then the internet did what the internet does and compared the two to Winnie the Pooh and Tigger. And apparently Xi doesn't like being compared to Winnie the Pooh. Seriously, he hates it when someone says he looks like Winnie the Pooh. Of course, whenever something like this bothers you, letting people know it bothers you is only going to make it worse. So Winnie the Pooh became a symbol of resistance against the CCP. And any comparison like this has been banned as a result. So whatever you do, don't compare Xi to Winnie the Pooh. So what do you think about these crazy things happening in communist China? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, China Uncensored is supported mainly by viewers. Be sure to visit patreon.com/China Uncensored. Contribute $1 or more per episode. We rely on your support to help us keep making great episodes. Or join our exclusive social media community on Locals. Check out ChinaUncensored.locals.com. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching China Uncensored.